All right. So, Book of Ecclesiastes, if you're joining us on Instagram Live, we're going to look at the Book of Ecclesiastes tonight. So, grab a Bible and go there. We've been going like book by book through the Bible. And so we've gotten all the way to, like if you go in order, we've gotten all the way to like 2 Kings, I think. And then, you know, we've done Psalms, Proverbs last week, and then Ecclesiastes this week. If you missed any of those, they're all on the church's YouTube channel. But I want to start off with this question. So forget anything about coronavirus. So just pretend that you're in your normal world, that this had never happened.
No.
If you inherited $1 million, what would you do with it? If tomorrow you woke up, someone you had no idea existed, died, left you $1 million, what would you do with it? Jaden?
I would give it to my mom.
Give it to your mama? Okay.
You're sweet.
All right.
I love it, just so you know.
All right, what else? What would you do, Jimmy?
I'd spend it.
Spend it? What would you spend it on? Like, what would you do with $1 million? Sergey, you got a smile on your face.
Well, I'm just saying, I would like buy a house.
Okay.
Like a nice house.
Not a not nice house.
Just not like invest in
Not
land.
nice house.
Hey,
Buy
you
a
know,
lot of land.
speaking of houses, there was this clickbait thing the other day that talked about houses of celebrities. Kid Rock lives in like a mobile home, and you would think that somebody with that kind of money would buy, you know, a mansion, and you might have a mansion, but that's what it had a picture of. Not that there's anything wrong with mobile homes. It's just funny that Kid Rock.
I'd expand my history book collection.
You would expand your history book collection. All right. Now, I'm not trying to ask you a trick question with that, and I'm not trying to tell you that any of those things would be wrong, that you would buy, but anything that you would buy with that, whether it's dream vacation, you know, house, car, whatever, anything you bought with that would eventually either wear out, break down, become obsolete, or it would end, like if it's something that's on a, like that's timed like a vacation, it would end. But anything you bought with that would eventually be gone. So if you went on your dream vacation and like you took a Mediterranean cruise or whatever it is that's your dream vacation, the most expensive one you can think of, eventually that vacation would be over, right? You'd get back and you would have the memories, but you can't just like live on a perpetual vacation. That would be boring. You couldn't do that, and plus you'd just run out of money. So that would be over. If you bought a car, that car would eventually be in a junkyard somewhere 20 or 30 years from now. It wouldn't be worth anything. If you bought a house, like Sergey would, that house would eventually need repairs, break down at some point, and then if you went on into the future, you would not live in that house forever. You would eventually have to go into like a nursing home or whatever. You couldn't take care of that house yourself. So no matter what you would do, like even if you went to Best Buy and bought the whole entire store, bought everything in Best Buy, all of that stuff would eventually break down. It would eventually become obsolete. Like the things that were in Best Buy whenever I was in high school, no one would pay money for those anymore. Like I could have bought the whole entire Best Buy whenever I was a senior, and I couldn't even sell that stuff at a yard sale now. Nobody would buy it. Like I remember one of my Christmas presents when I was in 10th grade was a CD Walkman. Like you couldn't even, you could probably find that somewhere for like a quarter, but I mean that cost $200 brand new whenever it first came out, like a portable CD player. Like, so whatever you bought, it would eventually break down or wear out. Or maybe some of you would be smarter with your money. Maybe you would invest it so that you could have a little bit of income whenever you're older. You know, that would eventually run out. Or maybe you'd hire a personal trainer so you could be the fittest, or a life coach so you could make all the best decisions. No matter what you would do with that money, that stuff that you would buy, the things that you would do would eventually be over. It would disappear. It's not something that you can keep with you. It might give you some sort of temporary feel good, but it's not going to last forever. And so, you know, even if you have perfect health, even if you have enough money to retire on, even if you became like the next Carrie Underwood or whatever, all of that would eventually fade away. You would eventually be forgotten. Like even if, I bet you all could tell me a couple of details about Coach Varner. But honestly, other than the fact that he was a football coach and he won a lot of games, I couldn't tell you much about him. That's basically all I know about him. Is like, he was big in that maybe 70s or 80s. He won a lot of games, but that's all I know about him. I don't know anything about his life. I don't know anything about his family. And I bet you all that the same way. Even though we're here in Woodruff, you probably couldn't tell me much about him other than that he was a famous football coach around here. So no matter what you do or no matter what you become, you'll eventually die. You'll eventually get sick. Even if you have perfect health, your money's going to eventually run out. You're going to die. Now, that all might sound really depressing. So it might sound like what I'm saying is nothing you do matters, nothing you ever buy, nothing you ever obtain will make any difference to you, whatever. Whether you're a drug addict or a missionary, everybody's going to die. It might sound like it doesn't even matter what you do or what you become, because you're all going to die in the end, and nobody's going to remember who you are. I mean, it'll be even if you become someone famous. I bet if you tried to go back 6 generations in your family, none of you all could tell me anything about your great-great-great-grandmother. Not that she wasn't a great woman, but I mean, we just don't. Those people have been forgotten. We don't know who they are. So does it matter what you do? Does it matter what kind of life you live? Does it matter whether you live a godly life or whether you are just a total reprobate? Does it even matter? And so it might sound depressing to think about that, but actually it's not true to think that it doesn't matter. And that's what the book of Ecclesiastes is about. The author of the book of Ecclesiastes tells us about what he did to try to make himself happy, to be remembered by future generations, to give meaning and purpose to his life. He tried everything that you could think of. He was richer than all the Kardashians put together. And he said in this book that it was all like smoke. Like I could buy anything I wanted. And it eventually was empty. I bought everything and I couldn't buy the next thing. And it was emptiness. He became the best at what he did. Like he was this is Solomon, by the way. He poured himself into his career as king. He became the best at what he did. He was the ruler of one of the most powerful nations on earth at that time. He built massive building projects. And he said that even with having the best career, it all seemed like vanity. It all seemed like chasing the wind. He tried physical pleasure. Just think about your dream vacation, wherever you would want to go. And then, with Solomon, it wasn't just with the woman of his dreams. It was with the women of his dreams. Like he had 1,000, at least that we know of, 700 wives and the 300 women on the side. So he said, I tried physical pleasure. I tried having it all, feeling it all, eating it all, whatever. And it was vanity. It was chasing after the wind. So in a way, the book of Ecclesiastes can be a little bit depressing because it sounds like nothing you do matters. Nothing you gain, nothing you become, nothing you are matters. And so we're going to look at what he said he found about the meaning of life. So I want you to look with me at chapter 1. And I'm just going to start reading there at the beginning of chapter 1. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What does man gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the north and turns to the south. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. And I'm not going to read all these verses, but what he's saying here is, listen, the sun rises and the sun sets. The wind blows and then it goes wherever. I don't know where it goes. Generations come and generations go. And so he starts off the book with this thought that it just seems like life is meaningless. It seems like I wake up, do whatever it is that I do, go to sleep. Wake up again, do whatever it is I do, and go to sleep. And it just is a continuous cycle. And with Solomon, it was not just wake up and do stuff. It was wake up and buy whatever he wanted, do whatever he wanted, eat whatever he wanted, build whatever he wanted. Like, he could do anything he wanted to do. And it just seemed like, to him, life was meaningless. And so in these first few verses, he's talking about what seems to him like a meaningless existence. So think about the things that you care about the most, the things that you put the most of your energy and emotion and investment into, the things that make you the happiest, I mean, all those things are going to end. All those things are going to fade. And that's what Solomon came to this conclusion. It just seemed to him like it was all chasing after the wind. It was all like smoke, like it was here for a moment and then it was gone. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that everything in life is meaningless. And so what he says in this book is, I tried this. Yeah, Jake?
Can I just say the chapter name?
Sure.
The chapter name is called Everything is Meaningless.
Everything is meaningless. Yeah. So it just felt like to him it was utterly empty and vain. And so, but he gets to the point in the book where he doesn't tell us that everything in life is meaningless. He doesn't say that it doesn't matter what you do, what you buy, who you become, that it's all meaningless. So just, do whatever you want to do, become a homeless drug addict, and just, have the most fun you can because you're going to die anyway. That's not the conclusion that he comes to. He says in the book that God has given us these things to enjoy. So, for instance, food. It's okay to enjoy a really, really good meal and to see that as a blessing from God, but to make that the point of my life, to become the best foodie imaginable and taste everything and have a Visco-worthy meal at every single meal. I mean, that's just going to become empty and meaningless. So enjoy the things that God gives you. Enjoy a nice meal, but realize that it's temporary, but it's a blessing that God has given us. If you think that teaching is the career path you want to go for, and you think that'll make you happy, then do that and enjoy your career, but realize it's a gift from God that is temporary. You won't always have that career. At some point you'll have to retire, or you just won't be able to do it anymore. But it's a gift from God. Whatever it is that God, or like a vacation, it's nice to enjoy a vacation, but if I made that the pursuit of my life, to do everything on my bucket list and go to every single destination in the world, I mean, it would just become routine after a while. Like it wasn't really a vacation. It was just, something that I was just going through the motions. So God gives us these gifts, and he wants us to enjoy these gifts, but we realize that they're temporary. So I want you to turn to the end of the book, chapter 12. This is the conclusion that he comes to. So Ecclesiastes chapter 12, just a few pages over. He says in verse 1, after all of the things that he tried, all of the things that he tried to give his life meaning, everything he tried to make himself happy, he says in verse 1, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come and the years approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them. And then go down to the very end of the book, verse 13. Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. So he says, and listen, you can't try something that Solomon didn't try. He bought it all, he ate it all, he had it all, he built it all, he became it all. And he said at the end, what I learned at the very end was, here's the meaning of life. Fear God and keep his commandments. That's what gives you meaning and purpose in life, to fear God and to keep his commandments. That's what will lead to the best life possible. So the book of Ecclesiastes is like this middle-aged woman or middle-aged man coming to you and saying, listen, if I could be 15 again, if I could go back and do it all over, here's what I would do. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Fear God. Obey God. Keep his commandments. That is what gives meaning and purpose to life. So you can have all of the Kardashians' money. You can have all of you can have your dream person. You can have your dream vacation, live in the nicest house you think you can buy. But at the end, he says what gives meaning and purpose to life is obey God, fear God, and keep his commandments. Jake?
Can I read the final
Sure,
passage?
go ahead.
Okay. The conclusion of the matter.
Yeah, the conclusion of the matter. Yeah, so he says that this is the conclusion after everything that I've done. You know, don't chase the wind. Fear God and keep his commandments. So that's the book of Ecclesiastes. Someone who tried it all and did it all. And he says, listen, I found the meaning in life is just pursuing God, obeying him and keeping his commandments. All right, so we are going to end with